In 2005, the Guild Wars franchise opened with the new adventurers starting their journeys in Tyria in Ascalon, through pre-Searing and into the start of the Prophecies campaign, into occasional post-release content, and then into Guild Wars 2. We have seen the region of Ascalon highlighted and play an incredibly important part in the lore and story of this franchise. And today, I want to go across Ascalon in Guild Wars 2, excluding the Icebrood Saga, which will be its own video, and highlight my top 20 favorite things found within. So let's get started. In the number 20 spot is Ebonhawke Structurally. I didn't really know where to put this into this video, so I thought I'd just put it in the number 20 spot and we can talk about it first. For this basically goes to the entire city of the stronghold of Ebonhawke. Now within the city itself, there are a lot of different secrets and special areas, one of which we may talk about further in the list, and many of which I have in the honorable mentions list, because this entire city is just incredible. When it comes to the lore and story of Ebonhawke and Ascalon and Guild Wars as a whole, this place is incredibly important for the overarching story, with the founding of Ebonhawke and the remaining survivors of Ascalon following the Searing and the Full Fire. And with it being such an incredibly important place, it has to be an epic location, and it is indeed an epic location. I remember in the announcement cinematic for Guild Wars 2, we saw the epic gates of Ebonhawke opening, and it was just an incredible experience. And then seeing this entire location and all of its magnificence in Guild Wars 2 in the Fields of Ruin was just an incredible experience to come through here and explore it. It also really plays an interesting part in the map as a whole and the gameplay loop of Guild Wars 2, because it's not an official city similar to Lion's Arch or Divinity's Reach, but it is connected to Divinity's Reach, which is very cool, but it also features its own crafting areas and a bank and a trading post, where a lot of players, as in a couple players every now and then, can be found hanging out in the trade area of Ebonhawke, just doing their normal stuff that you would think they would normally do in other cities, which I think just adds a lot of flavor to Ebonhawke as a whole. In the number 19 spot is the Steeleye Span, and this is probably one of the most iconic locations in Ascalon, or one of the most popular at least, that a lot of people would probably expect to be a little further down in this list, but for me personally, I think number 19 is a good spot for it, because it is indeed a really cool location. And just to talk down on it a little bit, there is a really cool task going on here, but other than that, there's not really too much going on with this place outside of the task. And the task, while fun, is also pretty basic, where it's kind of like the Zaitan fight. But when we look at the place as a whole, it is just really incredible looking, where we have the entire dragon brand and all of the stories related to Krakatork that play a major part in Ascalon in Guild Wars 2, where the dragon brand stretches throughout the entirety of Ascalon, and the branded are a major threat to the Char and the other people located around where the dragon brand is in Ascalon. The Steeleye Span plays one of the most important roles for the Char along the dragon brand in containing the branded and just protecting people from the dragon brand as a whole, and it's just a really cool area. In the number 18 spot is the Font of Rhand, and this is a very incredible mini dungeon located in Diasa Plateau, where you can access this area just going up in the northern part of the map and exploring the map, but the mini dungeon itself can only be entered by going through the portal located at the end of the meta event on the northeastern part of the map, where to get into this entire area you do have to do a bunch of events or just hope that the meta event is completed. And then once inside, we have what is an incredible mini dungeon, where a lot of mini dungeons in Guild Wars 2 can be completed by a single person, but this one really requires multiple people to do it, and you could probably do most of this by yourself, but it is incredibly challenging to do so, and it requires a lot of timing. But there are multiple rooms with multiple different puzzles that you have to navigate through with your friends in order to get to the final room, where there is Rhand the Crazed, who is an incredible Char enemy that you can fight, a member of the Flame Legion, who drops one of the most expensive mob drops in the entire game, with his exotic ring drop that you can sell on the trading post for about 150 gold, but of course the price fluctuates with the economy. And a lot of people do this just for a chance to get to that drop, which is needed for an achievement, and the mini dungeon as a whole is just incredible, and it's cool to see a mini dungeon that is pretty difficult and is probably the most difficult mini dungeon or jumping puzzle or any equivalent that we have in Guild Wars 2 out in the open world. In the number 17 spot is the Secluded Glen. This is a small little area in the northwestern corner of the Fields of Ruin that doesn't have too much going on, and it is a pretty small area. We have a tree here which is very nice, and we have a pile of stones that serves as a hero challenge where you can just get a hero point. And it's really cool to see this area so close to the dragon brand, where it's just far enough away from the brand where it is not corrupted and it is still nice and peaceful and secluded like the name suggests. And for your average player coming through here, you probably don't pay too much attention on what is going on around here. But for players who have read the Ghosts of Ascalon novel, and for players who spend a little bit more time around here, you can learn that this place is the grave of Killen, who is one of the adventures from the novel related to recovering the dagger of the Conqueror, and she is just laid to rest here, which is incredible to see a reference to that novel in Guild Wars 2. But on top of all of that, we also see Golek Oddsson, also from the novel, sometimes appear in this area to pay his respects, and it is incredible to see this interaction, and it is incredible to chat with him, and it's just really touching to see this entire monument to the novel and to Killen located here in the Fields of Ruin, because the novel does play a pretty important part in the overarching story of the Guild Wars franchise. And it is cool to see other things outside of Guild Wars 2 that is related to the lore and story of the Guild Wars franchise included here inside of Guild Wars 2. In the number 16 spot is the Last Whiskey Bar, and this is kind of an interesting area that a lot of people probably don't really care too much about, but for me it's just very nostalgic, where this is an area in the opening parts of Blaze Ridge Steppes right next to the Plains of Ashford and also pretty close to the Steeleye Span, where there isn't too much going on here, and the name of this place is a reference to an old song, but there is an event that goes on here where you can fight against some of the branded, and really that's it. But for me, I just have a lot of nostalgia coming to this location. Back when I started playing Guild Wars 2 in 2012, and when I was early on in my adventures into 2013, where I remember being in the Plains of Ashford and coming through the map portal into this area, into Blaze Ridge Steppes, where it was a lot higher level than I could explore at the time, because the character I was on was a lower level character than this place wanted you to be. And I do love locations like that across Guild Wars 2, where you have a higher level area connected to a lower level area where you can go and explore it at the lower level, but you're probably not going to have a very good time doing so. And it just encourages you to come back in the future so that you can overcome the challenges that await you in this zone. And the number 15 spot is Wall Breach Blitz, and this is a jumping puzzle located along the Great Northern Wall in Diasa Plateau. And it is a pretty iconic jumping puzzle that a lot of players struggle with, as it is towards the harder end of jumping puzzles in the base launch of Guild Wars 2. Where at the end of the day, it's not too difficult to do, especially if you take your time to kill some of the ghosts around here, but it is definitely a big hurdle for players, especially with the Vista and the Hero Challenge located at the end of the jumping puzzle, requiring players to do the jumping puzzle or get teleported up to the end. But when it comes to the jumping as a whole, I really enjoy it, as I enjoy many other jumping puzzles, and I really like the theme of this jumping puzzle, where it is located along the Great Northern Wall, and you can explore the Great Northern Wall a little bit and overcome some of the obstacles that are just naturally laid out in the wall that now serve as a jumping puzzle for players to explore. In the number 14 spot are the different Searing Crystals that you can find around Ascalon. And the Searing Crystals, of course, come from the Searing, which happened at the end of pre-Searing Ascalon and into the Prophecies version of Ascalon during the main campaign, where you can explore Ascalon in that game and find Searing Crystals around in that game. And then in Guild Wars 2, 250 years later in the lore, we still have some of these crystals hanging out around here, though much of Ascalon around them has healed and regrown to some extent. But it's nice to see a reference to a pretty big thing from the original Guild Wars that plays a pretty big part in how this road is structured in Guild Wars 2. And then it's also cool to just see what is basically a giant reference to the events of the original Guild Wars and the lore that helped build up this entire area. In the number 13 spot is Loreclaw Expanse. This is in the southeastern section of the Plains of Ashford and is located around the Separatist camp here, but you can climb up the mountain a little bit to enter this jumping puzzle that is in like a big cavern area. And when I originally started playing Guild Wars 2, I wasn't a big fan of this jumping puzzle, if I'm being completely honest, But nowadays, this jumping puzzle has grown on me a lot, and I really enjoy coming through here and beating all the obstacles. Where I do find this one to be a little bit more on the difficult end, kind of similar to Wall Breach Blitz, where I think a lot of newer players in Guild Wars 2 definitely struggle with this one a bit. But there's just something so aesthetically and thematically incredible with this entire area, where it's really fun to come into an area of Guild Wars 2 that is just a massive ruin, and I love diving into ruins in this game, and you can just see what some of the old Ascalonian architecture is kind of like in here, and you can overcome some of the challenges in the ruins of Ascalon in order to get to the end while beating a couple of puzzles to get to your final chest. In the number 12 spot is the Shatterer. This is a massive world boss located in Blizzard Steppes, which is probably the most iconic world boss in the entirety of Guild Wars 2 coming into Guild Wars 2, where ArenaNet really spent a lot of time hyping up this world boss, where it was shown in a lot of footage, and Blizzard Steppes as a whole was featured a lot coming into Guild Wars 2, where it, alongside maps like Queensdale, were really focused a lot in the betas of Guild Wars 2 and in the pre-release footage of Guild Wars 2, where a lot of love and attention was put into these maps, and the Shatterer is just an example of that, where this is just an incredible looking boss fight, but with the launch of Guild Wars 2 was an incredibly easy and mundane boss fight, where following the Heart of Thorns expansion, we saw this boss fight revamped, which was incredible, and it just made this entire boss fight so much cooler with so much stuff going on and many more achievements added to it. But as the game has evolved over the years, it has become a lot easier and more mundane, and is kind of basically the same as it was back in 2012, once again, just because of power creep and whatnot. But with all that aside, it is just an incredible world boss that looks incredibly cool and has just played a very, very important part in Guild Wars 2. And the number 11 spot is Pig Iron Quarry. This is a jumping puzzle located in Fireheart Rise that is a very short jumping puzzle that a lot of people have mixed feelings about because of the screen shake, but you can turn off the screen shake should you desire to. But for me personally, and as somebody where I'm not really impacted by the screen shake, it is really cool thematically to jump through this area rather than the screen shakes and you have to like pause for a second because it makes it so much more difficult to jump, and then you can continue jumping. For the entire puzzle itself is pretty basic and straightforward with only a few basic jumps, but I really like the extra elements added to this puzzle to make it a little bit more difficult. And it's also located in a very cool area and just looks cool as a whole, which adds a lot of points to it. In the number 10 spot is the Chaos Crystal Cavern, located in Iron Marches. This is, yes, another jumping puzzle. And I love jumping puzzles in Guild Wars 2, and this one is especially cool, where I love coming into this area where I'm always a little confused on where to find the entrance, but I ultimately always find it, and then we come into an incredibly beautiful crystal cavern as the name suggests, but it's also very chaotic as the name also suggests, where I do just love looking at how gorgeous this place is. But then we can begin the jumping puzzle, or we can cut ahead a little bit and jump up partway through and begin the jumping puzzle and try to make our way across this entire area, where the jumps themselves are pretty basic and pretty easy to complete. But of course, we have a gimmick going on here with the chaos energy, where you get randomly impacted by different blasts of chaos magic, where sometimes they make you big, sometimes they make you small, and a few other things that just add another layer of challenge to this jumping puzzle. But I always love coming through here and looking at the crystals and completing this puzzle because it is pretty fun to do, but I also like at the end with the portal that you can go through in order to get out of the cavern. It teleports you above the southern lake end of the Iron Marches and you fall down into the lake near the bridge, and I always find that kind of fun. And I love when this jumping puzzle is a daily back in the day, or it's more so a weekly every now and then nowadays, where you can go and hang out on the bridge and then just see a bunch of players intermittently falling from the sky. In the number 9 spot is the Searing Cauldron, also located in the Iron Marches. We can find this area in the southwestern corner of the map, and this is pretty similar to the Searing Crystal for me, where this is a reference to a pretty big part of the original Guild Wars, where this Searing Cauldron in particular was a pretty important place in the original game that I do have a lot of memories about. But there are a bunch of Searing Cauldrons in lore, and you even interact with them in the personal story, especially in Ore. And I always liked the lore and story going on here, and I really enjoyed the connection to the original game that is taking place related to the Searing Cauldrons. And I really like the aspect of how this is an ancient artifact that is an incredibly dangerous weapon that is responsible for killing countless humans, but it's still an artifact nonetheless, and some sort of history should be preserved with this. Which is what some people are trying to do, but also some people, like the Flame Legion, are trying to reactivate it once again. And the number 8 spot is the Branded Mine. This is an area located in the Fields of Ruin, and it is another jumping puzzle, but there's also another thing going on here, which I like a lot. But when it comes to the jumping puzzle, this is just, again, located in a very cool area with a pretty basic jumping puzzle that you can go through that I enjoy a lot. And it is a jumping puzzle that I do every now and then, but it's not too important nowadays as it hasn't been utilized for any content recently. But this location also serves as the location of a guild challenge, which I find to be incredibly fun, where I love a lot of the guild content in Guild Wars 2 with the various missions. And the one located here in particular is fun, where you need to split up your team into different parts of the area, and you even have to do a couple of jumps, but you don't have to do the entire jumping puzzle itself. And I appreciate it when ArenaNet takes content out in the open world and adds even more onto it in instances. And when it comes to guild content as a whole, I really hope we see more challenges and other missions added to the game. In the number 7 spot are the Ebonhawke Farms. Returning to the stronghold of Ebonhawke, which we opened the video up with, I really just wanted to highlight this area in particular because it is an incredible farm that has played a pretty big part in Guild Wars 2. And there's just so much going on here that I'm just going to bundle into here really quickly. But when it comes to the farms aesthetically themselves, it is incredible, where I really love all of the animals around here and all of the plants. But we also have Wade Samuelson, who is an incredibly important lore character in the Guild Wars franchise, and I love chatting with him and just seeing him here outside of the missions that we interact with him in. But there's also a really fun Easter egg with a reference to The Legend of Zelda, where you can come and attack some of the chickens around here, and then the chickens will turn on you and many crazed chickens will start chasing you. And if you are a newer player who maybe has some weaker armor, you may even die to these chickens, which is kind of always funny to see if I'm being completely honest. But then we got to the entrance to the vista up here, where you can see an incredible view of Ebonhawke as a whole. And there's even a back entrance to a special secret order whisper space, which I have on the honorable mentions list. And I just love seeing this entrance into this base because it basically serves as like a way to escape from the area or another way to sneak into that area. In the number 6 spot is the Great Northern Wall, stretching throughout the entirety of Ascalon west to east. We can see this place in the original Guild Wars as playing an incredibly important part in that game, featured in the opening cutscene for the Prophecies campaign, and also being a location that you go to multiple times throughout Prophecies at the start of Prophecies. And then come to Guild Wars 2, it is ruined because of the events of the Full Fire and of the Searing, but because of how massive it is and how it was built, it is still standing for the most part, though laid in ruins, where the Char are trying to dismantle it while the Ghosts of Ascalon are trying to keep it built up. And you can find the entirety of the Great Northern Wall located in multiple maps, including in Diasa Plateau, where we did a wall breach blitz, and it's just an iconic location in multiple maps, with so many different events and pieces of content and map completion objectives along the wall in each map. In the number 5 spot is Craze's Folly. This is a jumping puzzle located in Blaze Ridge Steps, in the northeastern corner of Blaze Ridge Steps. And it is a jumping puzzle that I think might be one of the lesser played jumping puzzles in the game, just because there haven't been too many instances that you have to come to this place to do something specifically in this place for various achievements. Where there is the main achievement itself, and we have seen it for a couple of legendary weapons and for one other bonus achievement, but that is it. And this place may be a reference to just a random char in the original Guild Wars, but that is unconfirmed, and it is now occupied by a ton of separatists at the start of the jumping puzzle. But once you jump through, you enter an incredible little area where I just love all the ruins and the trees and the water around this place, and it's just so stunning and gorgeous. and the jumping puzzle itself is decently fun, as you can jump through this area and then enter back into a cavern area where you have to navigate through here, fighting some monsters along the way before eventually getting to the final chest. And I just especially love the second part of this jumping puzzle with all of the beautiful scenic shots, and the jumping puzzle as a whole is just really fun. In the number 4 spot is the Iron's Tailpipe Bandana, and this is one of my favorite things in all of Guild Wars 2, where this is an item that you can unlock, and it is located in the Iron Marches, where you can find Rift Suit Claw and the Lamprey Grottos in the Iron Marches, and you can come into this area to find the Suit Warband, just trying to repair some of their tanks hidden in this little grotto. Which I guess I will quickly mention that this grotto is definitely an incredibly cool place, and I love seeing all the tanks in here, the charge is working away. But when you talk to Rift Suit Claw, you can accept his request to try to repair one of the nearby tanks, where you will get a little challenge, where you can try to repair the tank and you have to grease the turret gears, tune the engine, unclog the exhaust pipes, reseat the drive shaft, and reattach the steering rack in order to repair the tank. And should you be successful and not pick any of the other options, you will get the Iron's Tailpipe Bandana, which is a helmet skin for all the different professions, where you can get a light, medium, and heavy version that is pretty basic looking and can definitely be used in some fashion, though personally I haven't used it too much. But I just love having an item that you can unlock through a secret interaction in a random part of the map. In the number 3 spot is Vexa's Lab. This is a mini dungeon located in Fireheart Rise, which is just an incredible mini dungeon and one of my favorites in the entire game, where you can access this area through a secret Asuran teleporter at the end of some Asuran jumps, and at the center of the map inside of a volcano, where you then get teleported to the lab proper, where there are multiple rooms with very interesting puzzles that you have to complete. And I just love the aesthetics and the views that you can find in this area, and I love the puzzles themselves, and I really enjoy the final boss fight itself. And everything together just creates this to be a very incredible experience that does truly feel like a mini dungeon, a dungeon but in the open world in Guild Wars 2. In the number 2 spot is Bria's Manor, and this is a location in the Iron Marches, where this is basically kind of like a little cottage hidden in the woods, but a spooky cottage. And I just love how this place looks, and you can also break into this area by like logging in and out at a specific spot, and you can explore inside of the cottage, which looks very cool and is also spooky. But then you also got Bria, which is an incredibly interesting Ascalonian ghost, so interesting in fact that I made an entire video just highlighting her and this area because I love it so much. But now for the number 1 spot, for my favorite thing in all of Ascalon, and I feel like some people may have predicted this one because it is Anya's Strawberry Patch, where I talk about this location a lot on my channel, where this is probably the area that I have highlighted the most on my channel. But here we are once again talking about this place, and of course it is in the number 1 spot for this video just because I personally love this area so much. But in the town of Nolan, in the southwestern Diasa Plateau, we can find some of the ruins of Old Ascalon located around here, where you can find a ruined pipe that you can jump into and then go through the pipe to enter an absolutely incredibly magnificently gorgeous area. I don't know if you can tell, but I just really think this entire area is beautiful and I really love it a lot. This is just one of the most stunning locations in the entirety of Guild Wars 2, and it's just so fun to come into here and find your way up into this hidden area and then explore this place and see all the cool, beautiful sights and small hidden details just built into everything around here. But in the center of the area, surrounded by everything around here with all the magnificent trees and waterfalls and sunbeams, you can find Anya and her strawberry patch, where you can harvest the strawberries and you can use them for whatever purposes you want the strawberries for, or to sell them on the trading post. And you can also chat with Anya to get to know her a little bit and to learn about this location a little bit more. But I'm somebody who really enjoys gardens in Guild Wars 2, and the strawberry patch is just an incredible area that you can come to, and it just looks aesthetically very cool, and it is located in a magnificent area of Ascalon, an area that is just my favorite thing in all of Ascalon. And that's the video. I hope you enjoyed. Ascalon has a ton of stuff located in it, where I talked about many places here in this video, and I also put many honorable mentions down in the description. If you enjoyed this type of video, last week I went over my top 25 favorite things in the Shiver Peak mountain range, and you can go ahead and watch that video located on your screen right now. I hope you all are taking great care of yourselves. Have a good one, everyone.